The night she walked into the brothel was the darkest chapter in Rena's life. Yet even in that darkness, a glimmer of hope remained, the hope of saving her father. As she stood before Cale, sharing her story, tears streamed down her face, each drop a testament to her courage, her dignity, and the fierce love she held for her father. "My father," she choked out the words, her voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. "He's my whole world. He doesn't know anyone else other than me. I can't lose him." Her words hung in the air, echoing the depth of her despair. Every step she'd taken since her father's diagnosis had been a monumental struggle. From the moment the doctor had uttered the dreaded words emergency surgery and dropped the bombshell of 5-lactaca, her life had been a blur of frantic activity. She'd done odd jobs, begged for help, and pleaded with moneylenders, but all doors were firmly shut in her face. The weight of her desperation pressed down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. Then came the night when she had no choice but to seek help from the most unlikely of places. She found herself lost in the labyrinthine streets of the red light district, a place where hope seemed as distant as the stars in the night sky. Just when her resolve was at its breaking point, she stumbled upon Cale, a beacon of kindness in the darkness. His gaze, though initially surprised, quickly transformed into understanding and compassion. In that moment, she poured out her heart, sharing the secret burden she'd been carrying. The terrifying thought of losing her father, the surgery that offered a glimmer of hope, and the impossible sum of money that stood between them. As her story unfolded, Cale listened intently, his expression growing more somber with each word. When she finished, silence descended, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. Finally, Cale spoke, his voice a low rumble that held both sadness and strength. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" His words were gentle, laced with an empathy that soothed her aching heart. In that moment, the walls around Rena crumbled and tears flowed freely. All this time, she'd carried the weight of her situation alone, fearing that her troubles would become others' burdens. But in sharing her pain, she found a sliver of solace. For a long moment, they stood there, her tears mingling with the urban symphony, her body shaking with suppressed sobs. Cale didn't rush her. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He just stood there, a silent, comforting presence that let her emotions flow. When her tears subsided and her trembling subsided, Cale extended a hand, palm open, revealing 5 crisp, 100,000 taka bills. "Please take this," he said softly. "It's all I can do to help." In that instant, Rena's heart swelled. The sight of the bills, the embodiment of hope, brought a fresh wave of tears to her eyes. She wanted to ask questions, to probe the source of this unexpected aid, but she knew better. This kindness came with no strings attached, and she wouldn't mar it with inquiries. With newfound determination, she rushed back to the hospital, the money clutched tightly in her hand. The surgery went well, and her father emerged from the ordeal healthier than before. He never learned of the depths his daughter had plumbed to save him, nor did she ever speak of it. But their bond, forged in the fires of adversity, became unbreakable. Later, when Cale visited the village, their paths crossed again. Not as desperate and helpful stranger, but as two souls recognizing a kindred spirit in the other. They started talking easily, their initial awkwardness melting away with each shared smile, each inside joke. Cale sensed Rena's lingering hesitation, the unspoken question marks in her eyes. He understood that she was grappling with feelings of indebtedness, and her inherent dignity was recoiling at the thought of owing someone, especially in the circumstances they'd met. So he did something unexpected. He talked about himself, his life, his dreams, anything but the sum of money that now divided them. Slowly, Rena began to relax, her guardedness falling away to reveal the warm, generous soul beneath. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they'd formed a bond that transcended their past. The money, the reason for their initial meeting, receded to the background, becoming a mere footnote in the grand narrative of their budding friendship. Over the following months, Cale continued to visit, each trip deepening their connection. He was patient, kind, and respectful, never once making her feel uncomfortable or ashamed about their first encounter. He was, in every sense of the word, a true friend. And as fate would have it, Cale fell in love with Rena, not in spite of their unique circumstance, but because of the strength, dignity, and compassion he'd seen in her. He loved her for the countless sacrifices she'd made for her father, for the hurdles she'd overcome with grace, and for the unwavering hope that had sustained her through her darkest hours.